the latest news there. So you are aware that in our common program, and as you can see on the next slide, also the Appia initiative is the cornerstone of the Eurosystem strategy to provide central bank money with innovative tokenized wholesale financial markets that leverage technologies as, for example, distributed ledger technology. As regards our roadmap, our work is logically structured in building blocks, so which will be developed in particular via analytical and practical work, and also standardization. The work on the building blocks that you can see here will inform the Eurosystem and market stakeholders about the feasibility of implementation options. To recall, the 6 building blocks are asset interoperability and standards, it's monetary policy and collateral management on DLT, it's the European tokenized central bank money infrastructure or structures for which tokenized central bank money will be provided in Europe. And it's about the international dimension and cross-border links. In a few minutes, Paul will provide more details on these four building blocks. The remaining 2 are actually, number 5 is about analysis to ensure that the new ecosystem is innovative, safe, and resilient new ecosystem. The building block 6 is about the implementation strategy and impact on existing infrastructures, which is something on which we will, of course, come back later when establishing the blueprint and the implementation strategy is more timely then. So on the next slide, you actually, see then on the consultation that we have had, where we had a high and a diverse participation. So we had actually, in the 20-question survey, solicited feedback on the Appia roadmap and proposals to contribute to Appia, which is part of our program on the tokenization. The submission period was from 11 March to 22nd of April. And in that time, we got 127 submissions from stakeholders across sectors and geographies, of whom 116 expressed an interest to contribute. So this compares pretty much to, for example, the target opening hours consultation. On the next slide, some more details on this consultation. The feedback is that actually there's a broad alignment with the Eurosystem seeking to leverage DLT and to achieve its objectives. Those objectives include ensuring the effectiveness of monetary policy and financial stability, and maintaining central bank money as the anchor of a 2-tier system, monetary system, for the smooth functioning of payment systems. It's about fostering a more integrated, competitive, and innovative payments and securities ecosystem through efficient infrastructures for financial markets, supporting the strategic autonomy and increased resilience, and ensuring the relevance of the euro as an international currency through an active market for payments and securities. Then you see that actually the market also appreciated and confirmed that the approach of a public-private partnership. It welcomes that diverse stakeholders are involved, and they also supported that actually there's a structured engagement and innovation. Market participants also appreciated the evidence-based approach that we are proposing. The market then highlighted that central bank services on DLT as a foundation are important, and in particular, tokenized central bank money and collateral mobilization of DLT native assets are seen as a priority by the market. As regards the question whether central bank money settlement will be possible on a single network or on a multitude of networks, Market participants flagged the usefulness to analyze further the trade-offs between these options and highlighted that in their view, interoperability will in any case be an essential feature. This goes hand in hand with the next point that there is a broad support for standardization and also for clear governance. The market also recommended that in their view, the options for any implementation and for further development should be narrowed down over time toward a defined target design. Then Paul will go, as said, over the building blocks.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So indeed, Holger presented in broad strokes the feedback that we have received in the consultation. What I would like to do now is to walk you through some of the initial scoping of activities to progress Appia that we've identified, building on this, specifically on this feedback. So we've just seen that in the consultation on the Appia roadmap, standardization was underlined as a key enabler of an integrated tokenized ecosystem, going hand in hand also with the importance of having interoperability efficiently implemented. This corresponds in our Appia roadmap to the first building block we had set out that you see here on the screen. And we have progressed on some initial ideas and activities on how to go about developing this. The objective is to come up at the level of the overall industry with a European framework that would enable tokenized financial services to seamlessly interact across infrastructures, providers, and jurisdictions, interacting end-to-end across the value chain and the life cycle of assets. We've just seen before in the Pontes use cases that all of these aspects were core functions that were explored with tokenization. So in line with the feedback received in the consultation, we have identified different layers of standards that would be needed to achieve this objective and that need to be considered not only from a technical perspective, but also from a legal and operational perspective. The first set of standards relates to asset representation, transactions. This includes thinking of identifiers, metadata, taxonomies. The idea here is to make sure that assets and their representation remain consistently usable and interpretable across infrastructures and providers. A second category of standards that will also be needed to achieve this objective includes standards at the level of the distributed ledger infrastructures that underpin tokenization. So this includes considering topics such as consensus mechanisms, resiliency, security, and how this is ensured in these new distributed infrastructures. The third category of standards to achieve this objective focuses more on the policy and the legal foundations of tokenized financial markets. This is where the standards will need to look into the legal recognition of tokenized assets, how ownership rights are represented, how settlement finality is ensured, liability structures, and supervisory mandates. The approach will be to progress on all of these three layers of standards, building first and foremost on the existing frameworks and initiatives that are there in the market, where several organizations and several initiatives have already proposed some standards. The idea will be to build on that and the existing breadth of expertise in the market. To do so, the Eurosystem will want to engage with the market and all relevant stakeholders across Europe to foster these standards, bringing the industry together to progress on all these different layers. We are now currently doing preparatory work to set up this engagement. This will start in 2026 after the summer. If we go to the next slide, here you will see another clear priority that was underlined in the consultation on the Appia roadmap relates to central banking on DLT and in a DLT ecosystem, how this would be implemented. In particular, the feedback covered how tokenized central bank money could be provided on different types of networks in the future, and how collateral mobilization of native DLT assets could be operationalized directly on DLT platforms. So this corresponds to Appia building blocks 2 and 3 that we had presented in our roadmap. On tokenized central bank money, of course, Pontes is a first step. What we will want to explore in Appia now are different approaches and complementary features that would enable tokenized central bank money to be provided, including, for instance, on shared networks. We will set up initial experimentation with a focus on governance, so exploring how to translate the necessary governance requirements for central banks to maintain control over issuance, redemption, and management of tokenized central bank money, leveraging also the capabilities of the technology. I think this was one question that we also received during this session. So this will be typically the type of the benefits of the technology that we will want to explore under Appia in a more forward-looking way, complementing what is already being implemented in production with Pontes. On the collateral side, so you of course know that your system already accepts tokenized asset as collateral through the mobilization process in existing infrastructures. A first mobilization under this approach already took place. Here, building on the feedback we've received in Appia, we will also explore different and complementary approaches, including that would enable the mobilization of assets directly on DLT for your system credit operations. We will also consider, as part of that, what functionalities of our current system, ECMS, can be leveraged to facilitate this. So this will be another topic that we will explore in experimentations that have already started now, with results expected also now and in 2027. Taking both of these aspects together, the tokenized central bank money and the tokenized collateral, so the starting point for us will be these experimentations on what we call foundational aspects of central banking on DLT. We will explore here under Appia different governance models and different network configurations. This includes also the single versus multiple network approaches that was highlighted as an important trade-off to explore in the consultation. This will be included in these experimentations. In parallel to the experimentations, we will also assess in your system what type of policy framework could be needed in the future to provide our services on shared networks. This includes, for the collateral mobilization side, assessing possible updates to our eligibility framework to consider new types of platforms that could become eligible beyond the existing ones. And on the central bank money side, this will follow the importance of translating our governance and control requirements in the context of shared networks. We will progress with these experimentations, and we will share learnings and the results with the market through our stakeholder engagement strategy. I will come back to that in a few slides to gather feedback on this. Then we move to the next slide. So a last building block where we have already scoped some activities related to Appia building block 4, the international dimension and cross-border links, where, of course, as Holger recalled, it's important to consider from the start how a European tokenized ecosystem would be connected internationally. This requires, in particular, considering how a two-tier monetary system, including central bank money and private settlement assets, can interact. The two types of assets here, private settlement assets and central bank money, are complementary for a well-functioning payment ecosystem, and we will want to explore this domestically and internationally. On this specific aspect, one promising approach to explore is Project Agora, to which the Eurosystem participates and several European market stakeholders also actively participate, because this project explores specifically what I've mentioned, the implementation of a two-tier monetary system on DLT. This includes exploring how tokenized deposits and tokenized central bank money can be interlinked to deliver end-to-end programmable settlement of cross-border transactions. On the specific Project Agora, to which we participate, a first prototype was completed earlier this year, and real value transactions are planned to further test the capabilities of the prototype in realistic settings. So we will want to explore this approach and more widely how to implement this two-tier monetary system on DLT. One aspect, of course, is to explore through experimentations and prototypes. Another one is to look at the legal and the policy implications of that, which we will also want to go into. So this includes considering how fungibility between private settlement assets and central bank money is operationally ensured, under which responsibility. So this will include analyzing questions like responsibilities for clearing different private settlement assets in central bank money. If we move to the next slide, to summarize, these were initial activities that we have scoped in line with the feedback we've received. So we've already incorporated some of the takeaways from the consultation on the Appia roadmap. The first next step will be to come back after summer with the publication of the full results of this consultation. This will be later this year. And we will also come back with additional activities, analytical work, practical work, and experimentations, including involving market stakeholders. We will come back to that later this year. So this was an initial scoping that we present today, but we will come back with more information. As was already mentioned by George, we will also be setting up the Appia contact group in September, and we'll announce the composition soon. This group will be leveraged to continue the market engagement across the overall program for both Pontes and Appia. And this will include gathering ideas and market feedback, and specifically in the case of Appia, to also practice this joint collaborative approach that we've already set out in the roadmap, and where Holger recalled that the public-private partnership is essential to the success of the project. On standardizations, as I've mentioned, there will be a dedicated engagement that will begin later this year after the summer. And we will also continue to have regularly these focus sessions to keep you updated and engage with you as we progress the project. So with this, I will hand it back over to you, Ellen.
Thank you, Paul. Super nice with the overview on the Appia project as well here. If we keep Paul on, there is one question maybe that we have received on the Pontes Appia. It's about, so let me read, because you didn't have time to read. Do the Pontes and Appia work streams look into programmability aspects of the wholesale central bank money? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, happy to do so. So indeed, we are looking more generally into how the technology can be leveraged to implement the financial services we know today. So this includes, as I said, on our side, translating the activities we do with central banking on DLT. This includes then looking into indeed features like programmability, like management of different smart contracts that we could use as central banks to manage central bank money, also to mobilize asset as collateral. That's one aspect. And we also be keen to look more broadly into how this can be used across the value chain. This includes also by the markets for their own services. And the key focus will then be to understand what are the design requirements so that central bank services and market services can seamlessly interact on these new types of infrastructures. We've already presented here one example from Project Agora of how this can be done in the context of tokenized deposits and central bank money, but we will also want to look into that more broadly for overall market services, so including for securities, for clearing and all other ranges of services.